Welcome to the License and Registration Show. I am your host, Mike Ryu. Today we are here at Fleming Island Cars and Coffee, and it's a little drizzly, off and on, but hey, last day of summer in Florida, what can we do?
Yep. You got to enjoy it.
So I'll go ahead and we'll go down the table, let everybody introduce themselves.
All right. Well, I'm Dos from Holeshot Powersports. We sell Indian, Polaris, slingshots. Come on down and see us in Fleming Island.
Sweet.
My name's Josh. I run Fleming Island Cars and Coffee. Started up about January, our 8th show. Going pretty good so far.
Cool.
And I'm Trey. I help Josh co-host Cars and Coffee and the Facebook and all that, and just help out.
Awesome. So Josh, you're saying this is the 8th show.
Yep.
And you guys have kind of newer to the cars and coffee scene. So what kind of motivated you to start another cars and coffee in this area?
What motivated me was there was kind of no shows around here, and at the time COVID had started.
Yeah.
So there was no shows in general. Caffeine and octane had just stopped, and caffeine and gasoline wasn't as big. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to just start something up in the area and give everybody a chance to come back out.
Cool. So what was the process like? I mean, I know everyone thinks like having a car show is the easiest thing in the world. Maybe a one-time show here and there is a little easier to set up, but trying to get the permissions and everything else to set up a recurring show, like, did it take you guys a long time to find a spot, get a partner, or?
It was difficult at the start. It was mostly word of mouth, but getting the venue was easier than expected, though, because at the beginning, this movie theater was closed down. So I just talked to the property owner, and they let me come. But midway through, I had to negotiate a little bit because they opened back up as AMC, and I finally got them to allow me to come here. But the startup process was quite difficult. First show wasn't that big. Second show got a lot bigger. But it's going pretty well, so.
Nice. And Dust, so coming in, now I'm assuming you're a partner supporter of Fleming Island.
Absolutely.
How does that work for a business like yourself to have kind of a newer startup show come in, but being able to come in and support it?
Well, it's really nice because we're here locally in Fleming Island as well. So being obviously really close and down the street makes it A, easy for us, and B, we love giving back to the local community. So we do a lot with like Clay County Police Department, the POW League, things like that. So being able to support a show that keeps these local kids out here nice up early, showing off their cars, doing something productive with their lives, man, it's awesome. Plus, it kind of works into that same more of the sales mentality with our Polaris slingshots. We see a lot of our sport car guys and sport bike guys really kind of converting into the slingshots as they kind of become more apparent with them now that they're not motorcycles anymore. Anybody with a Class C license can drive them, and now that we've got the automatic options with the slingshot as well. So
cool.
It's kind of a nice little option to bring more things than typical car guys are used to seeing because we're more in that motorcycle community than we are currently in the car community. So having that here locally has really been awesome, man. Josh has been great the whole time. I think he actually approached us at one of our bike nights that we host down the street at Chubby's and was like, hey, man, this Sunday we're going to be here if you want to come. And I'm like, can I fit the truck? But yeah, you fit the truck, then I'm going to be there. No problem.
So what goes into you making that decision? People come to you. Do you evaluate it all, or is it just kind of, hey, we have the time and we're able to support the community?
Exactly. If we have the time and we have the staff to do it, we're definitely all in most of the time. So we get a lot of requests, and we try to fill most of them, especially if we're giving back locally here, because we are a mom and pop shop. I'm not a corporate chain or anything like that. So as much as I can give back to the local community, that's what we're here for.
Awesome. So what do you guys kind of right now, we talked a little bit about, we touched on COVID and how that originally had, impacted some of the scenes, some of the shows and things like that, to where we are today, where it kind of feels like we're almost in full swing again with, caffeine and octane is back, gasoline.
Caffeine and gasoline.
Caffeine and gasoline, that's the other one.
That's the one at the Orange Park Mall.
That's it, yeah. And now have you seen your show, especially on days where the weather's a little bit nicer, of course, have you seen like attendance grow? Like what's kind of what's your feeling on kind of where you're at now and what it's looking like moving forward?
I have optimistic hopes for the future. You can tell that it's definitely been growing. There's probably 100 cars here today, maybe something like that. It's one of our better shows. At the start, maybe 30 cars, so we've come a long way. Most of our shows get rained out, though, surprising. I mean, with the weather right now. But we got lucky today, and there's a lot of nice cars out here, so optimistic hopes for the future, and It's doing pretty good.
So if you were to say someone else is out there, and not necessarily Northeast Florida, but I mean anywhere, and you've got someone who's looking to start a Cars and Coffee style event, what are some things you learned early on that's like, wow, I didn't think about that, or maybe over time you're like, okay, well, this needs to be better, this needs to be better?
The main thing with starting a show is definitely word of mouth. I thought that it was going to be super easy and super straightforward. If I get like Lamborghinis to come, everybody else would show up, but that's not how it works.
If they drive it, they will come.
Exactly. Our second show had a lot of lower end cars, but a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And that's what attracted everybody else, because they told their friends who told their friends. And that's basically all it takes, is get to know your people, get around basically. Mm-hmm. And yeah, word of mouth.
Running the Facebook side of it, like Facebook helps a lot, but making like the events and be able to post it and share it and get all these people. Like here in Florida, we have a bunch of different groups. We have like Nissan groups, Subaru groups, everything like under the sun. So being able to get in those groups and like sharing it around like here locally definitely helps a lot, because all the people repost it and they're like, oh, we're coming. That means the other people are going to come also. So it's a good mix of what you can get.
So are you getting a lot of engagement on the social side?
Oh yeah,
Yes.
like for sure. They're definitely putting in like the Nissan groups, all those groups. They post in there daily about parts and stuff like this. So, and they share events, and so a lot of people like to come out, especially for like Cars and Coffee, like things in that like early morning.
Yeah. I mean, I found over time, I mean, social media definitely evolves and changes. Facebook, I think, has kind of taken on this role, or it's not necessarily a place where people, post like, oh, David drank a Diet Coke today, or anything like that. It's more of like an organizational community platform. I think that's where it's starting to show a lot of strengths. And completely agree. Like I would, and I know that's really all I use Facebook for
absolutely.
now.
That's
these
all I
days.
use
It's
Facebook
like
for, too.
event planning, and then occasionally I post some pictures, but that's really about it.
Yeah, it's about the same.
Yep.
I go there for marketplace and for advertising. So
Yeah.
We have some great deals on Marketplace.
Oh, yeah, for
that's
sure.
where I got my car. What can I say?
Hey, yo.
Oh, well, there you go. So at Holeshot, so I know you guys are involved in the power sports genre and everything else.
Yep.
And you're starting to see some of the EV bikes come through.
Absolutely.
Tell me some thoughts on that. Like, how long have you been into bikes in general?
Well, I was always a car guy.
Okay.
Probably recently into the bikes in the last about 5-6 years or so. Started off sport bikes, Yamaha R6, R1, moved over into the Indians, cruiser side of things. Got a new Challenger now, but I mean, that's a 126 horsepower, cruiser. So
Right.
they're actually racing those things out in Laguna Seca, using the King of Baggers race. And we took, the first race with that. So I'm excited to see Indian come back this year and
Very
just keep
cool.
putting that, attention out there on what we can do. And, we came to play. So really, it's been fun. The electric things is going to add just a whole lot of emphasis. And I mean, even to the bike side of things, but even with the off-road, one of our biggest sellers in Rangers is the electric Ranger, because
Really?
for hunters, getting out there silently, getting through their woods without making noise, not having to worry about, 60, 80 decibel motors crutching through, you don't scare your prey off. So that's been huge. But on the bikes, we're talking instant power classification.
Yep.
Obviously, we're restricting our classes because now we're looking at, your commuters, your around town guys, not your distance riders, which is more typically where Indian is stacked towards, because we're a cruiser family.
Yep.
We're about hopping on a bike and getting across state lines, breaking across the country. And electrics are going to be fun. A lot of fun for the right guys. for
Right.
sure.
Are you finding so? And this is something I've talked about with some other bike guys, and like when you look at Indian and Harley and things like that, where you kind of had your demographic, and it's been that way for a long, long time.
Absolutely.
And trying to attract the younger owner and things like that, it's been tough.
To an extent, but unlike Harley, I mean, Indian's all about their performance and technology. So,
Okay.
for instance, like my bike, a 2020 model, and all our new since 18, actually, we've had a 7-inch Ride Command touchscreen on there. So we're really looking at, again, bringing that younger crowd in, showing them advancements, doing things like tire pressure sensors automatically, auto-locking bags, motors that don't vibrate, to bring it all in. And then in 2020, we released Apple CarPlay on all of our bikes.
Really?
So we're talking about CarPlay on a motorcycle, but same aspect. So you can Waze, you can use Pandora, Spotify, whatever you want, and really just bring your ride into comfortability. And the really nice thing about what Indian does is that they've made it so that you never actually have to touch the screen. So you never leave your riding position. You're always both hands on the the sticks. You have controls for everything. So literally anything I can do on the screen, I can do from the riding position without any real input, other than me watching the road and staying safe.
Oh,
and
very
then on
cool.
the other end of things, we go into performance, which is what kids want nowadays. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Power for money. And that's what you're getting with Indian. You know, probably the same thing that you could get with the Harley Stage 3. You're getting out of the box with Indian and saving almost $10,000 to $15,000 on the same type of motorcycle. So
That's crazy.
There's definitely a lot of good incentive to bring these kids to Indians. Plus, you know, today we brought our carbon FTR out, which is kind of like a hyper sport, but all true carbon fiber panels on there. It's a numbered bike. So really, you know, draws a lot of attention. And we are using it in our racing course. So, you know, the Indian FTR has been dominating since, I think, 2018, 18, 19. At 17, 18, and 19, we won the American Flat Track race. 20, we didn't because they weren't racing due to COVID. But we did come out with the King of Baggers race and took that with our big old Challenger, which I got hiding in the trailer, too. I'll probably fire that up here later and show these guys what some real exhaust sound like.
So what do you think, like, the state of like kind of like the state of the union for motorcycles as a whole? Is it healthy? Is it growing? Is it just kind of there and trying to figure out where it's going?
You know, because of what I sell, I feel that it's growing because I see a lot of new customer bases. You know, I see a lot of first-time riders. I see a lot of converts. I see a lot of guys older in life. They're just like, you know, I've looked at these for a long time and I think I'm finally ready to pull the trigger. So there's definitely been those guys that have been looking for a while, but we draw a lot of the younger crowd with our Scouts and our smaller bikes as our starter entries because you get a lot of value for money. And so I don't think that the motorcycle world is dying, to say. I definitely think it's growing. But just like anything else, man, we have to promote awareness. You know what I mean? We see way too many wrecks out here on two wheels, two guys not paying attention, you know, while they're riding around. You know, we got to be safe. Cars got to be safe when they see us. So being at shows like this, again, just promotes awareness of motorcycles in general. So we'll show up and we'll be here.
Cool. So on you guys on the car side of things, I know we're starting to see a big shift. So we've worked a lot with some auction houses like RM Sotheby's, Mecum, Barrett Jackson, things like that. And we've kind of noticed a trend over the last 10 to 15 years where you see muscle cars and things like that, where they used to bring in top dollar and everything else. And now you're kind of seeing a shift of where the collectability market is going. And my kind of hypothesis behind it is that you've got a younger buyer now that's entering into kind of like these auction and collector markets. And so you're seeing 90s JDM, 80s cars, you know, things like that are really starting to skyrocket in value. I mean, you look at like an E36 M3. I mean, what you could have bought one for 10 years ago versus what it's going to cost you today. What do you guys feel like as car enthusiasts, the impact of basically, you know, a rising tide, you know, raises all ships type of deal with the cost of cars, S2000s, I mean, 80s and 90s muscle cars, look at a Fox Body Mustang 5.0, things like that. How is that going to impact the enthusiasts and the enthusiast scene probably over the next few years as you find more and more cars are starting to get to a price point where now they're kind of out of, you know, the younger generation's pocket?
That's a tough question. It's going to be a big change for younger people because obviously they can't afford the cars, but there's also a lot of cars out there that they can afford. Like, I know a lot of people are trying to get into the older JDM side of things because that's like the younger type of thing to do at the moment. But there's also newer things like 350Zs that you could get yourself into that are just as good. They're still JDM technically, and they just do that until they get a good job and basically save up enough. So that's another thing. I've been seeing a lot of like Nissan 350, 370Zs around instead of the older cars. So
Start bringing back that rat rod generation,
Right?
man. Build a car with whatever you got.
Definitely.
Bring it back.
That Cuba style, you
That's
just put
right.
it together.
Whatever you got,
Put it together,
bobbers,
go
you
with
can keep
it.
making it in. Yeah, bring back the trades. Like they say, man, hard times make hard men, right?
Yeah.
Hard men make good times, and good times make soft men.
Now, what do you guys think about this? What about recent? So you've got companies like there's one out west California called EV West, and they take your classics, your vintage cars, and some not vintage, but completely EV swapping them.
Yes.
So basically putting a Tesla drivetrain in your Porsche 911 or a 66 Mustang or something like that. Now it's become completely EV.
I've seen somebody, I'm pretty sure it's the same company, they put a full EV in a C6 Corvette. As an old Z06, they ripped everything out and put an EV in it.
There's There's one like that at the Cars or Coffee and Octane at the Avenues. Yeah, there's an old Beetle that's Tesla swapped. It's got all the batteries in the front and everything.
Yep.
It's definitely such a like cool concept to see, but
it's a very cool concept, but I don't know if I'm completely on board with it. I'm a big exhaust purist. You can say that. It's cool, but I think that they should be kept the way they were built. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, like a good classic. You know, we my dad and I build old cars like that. We have like 31 Chevys and stuff, and that would be never an option to electric swap anything. you gotta love the V8 rumble to it and the noise.
Right.
And yeah, it's a whole process of what you like want to enjoy.
Well, how do you think the EV culture is going to integrate into actual car culture? Because I mean, you think of it like the Fast and the Furious generation. You know, over the last decade, 2 decades, you've had the folks who are, you know, the tuners. And then you go back to, like you said, you talk like rat rods, the muscle car area, where everyone was always tweaking their cars, making adjustments, changing out parts, aftermarket this, aftermarket that. But then you look at a company like Tesla, where there really isn't, like, there may be an aesthetic aftermarket, but there's really nothing, like, you can't go in and tune a Tesla.
Right.
Yep.
Like,
Grab
you know,
bigger
yeah, like
motors.
that's you're not putting in a bigger motor, you're not changing gearing, you know, all these types of things. Yet. Well, yeah, it's true. Now, the thing is, you may have a company eventually that builds a car that has that ability. But what does that do? Because you look at a scene now where you have kids growing up into basically the EV side of thing. Like, to them, like, Tesla is where it's at. Like they don't care about the exhaust note, you know, of a 68 Camaro.
Yeah, you know, like Fords, they can just make them out of the speakers, right? So put
Yeah.
that sound
Like
out
the
there.
BMW i8, their exhaust is in the speakers.
That's right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think the Mach-E is the same way now.
Yeah, sure is.
Yeah.
But I think, like everything else, man, it's going to come down to cost effectiveness. You know, if we start getting battery technology and electric motor technology to a point where it's a lot easier to just electric swap something versus source an old motor, do things like that.
Right.
It's definitely going to be part of it. And we're going to see it in these car scenes because, again, these small things like Cars and Coffee, these are all local shows.
Right.
You know what I mean? We're not talking, East Coast big show like, what is that they do out in Maryland for like V-dubs? Like Ocean Fest or something like that, you know what I mean? Like, it's massive, you know what I mean? People show out. Cars and Coffees are local guys, so we're gonna start seeing electric cars because, again, we're in their vicinity where they're just traveling locally.
For sure.
So again, I think it's just going to come down to cost effectiveness. You're going to have purists who don't like what they do,
Right.
But then just like kids nowadays with phones, technology, and everything going electric, things are just a little more simplified.
Yeah.
We're not talking about all these sensors anymore, 4 computers to run a car. We're talking about a couple boards and some batteries. You know what I mean? 1 motor, no trans, no fluids. That's really nice and really simple. And, of course, with everything going green, it's only going to be the way that things keep progressing. You got major car companies out there going full green like Volvo, you know what I mean?
Right.
By X year, they're not even going to be producing gas cars. So
Yep.
at a certain point, we're going to cross that price threshold where it's going to be a lot easier to get on board with the electric side of things.
Yeah, well, I mean, like Volkswagen just came out with that crossover. It's a full EV. Tesla's already talking about their next model coming out, and it's supposed to be a super affordable, like almost mini hatchback looking deal. So I think the options are they're going to start rolling out, like you said, as the ecosystem matures and more people have access and more of these cars end up in the price points.
Absolutely.
You're going to start seeing more of them without a doubt. But then you look at, companies like startups. So it's not just, Porsche and Volkswagen and Ford and everybody else. One of the Rivian.
Yep.
So they just beat everyone to the punch with the first full production EV truck.
Yep.
And it's been getting some great reviews, off-roaders and everything else, just what they can do with them. It's interesting.
Well, and just like that, Tesla's kind of helping pave that way with putting their, fast recharge stations across the country, already planting these. So I think, once normal car drivers start seeing electric charging stations more readily available in their lives, it'll become more of it's not that big of a deal. Because if I'm going to get gas or going to the grocery store, they got an EV slot for me.
Yeah.
I can just park it there. Or if I'm going down to Orlando, going to the kids, with Disney's got an EV parking lot or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Once they start seeing it, it's going to be a lot easier to fathom themselves in an EV and then really start opening that door again.
Yeah, so, and I've got a couple friends with Teslas and other EVs, and my buddy Ernie, he's got a Model X P100D, but it's all built out, like
That's
it's
a nice
dropped
car.
on BC forged, all this stuff. But his whole methodology behind owning this Tesla is to show people that like he travels all over the Southeast and sometimes a little further for shows, and he's usually at something almost every weekend. But he's really trying to, dispel the myth of like range anxiety.
Right.
He's like, I can get to places, I can go do things. Like, I'm not stuck at a truck stop for 45 minutes.
Absolutely,
yeah, things like that. So I think as the ecosystem and infrastructure, develops more, I'm surprised now we haven't seen more charging stations at like Publix or the grocery store, because that's somewhere where you're going to spend 20, 30 minutes anyway.
That's what I mean, yeah.
I mean, it's tough at a gas station, I think.
For sure, yeah.
Because gas station, you're
that's
thinking,
in and out.
yeah, you want to be in and out. You don't want to spend 20, 30 minutes. But at places where you're already spending that time, I think those are spots like prime opportunity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if anybody's out there and you want to invest into some charging stations, that would be my opinion.
Find a shopping center.
Yeah, find a shopping center.
The Mach-E's that way, like the new Mustang, the electric Mustang.
Yep.
A coworker of mine at work has one, and she loves it. She doesn't complain about the charging station. She goes, I can go to a supercharging station and be done in 15, 20 minutes, charge the battery, and I'm on my way again.
Yep.
She's like, even if I don't have the time, like I'll go sit there and relax or do something productive while I'm sitting in the car. She brings her laptop everywhere. People will make time for it, especially like on like the tuner side of things now, be able to see like the Teslas with like bags and dropped on nice wheels and set up wrapped. Even with, like without the modification of the motor, the car looks amazing. Like it belongs where like the tuner is. When you make it like that, it seems like it fits in.
Yeah, we've got friends. They own a couple of these aftermarket shops. I think one's in Ocala, another one's down near Naples. It's called Signature Customs, and they do a lot of stuff with. They're almost exclusive like Tesla.
Yeah.
So, but it's all drop kits. They got these screens, like they'll do interior mods.
Nice.
But again, you can't touch the motors. Like it doesn't change the performance of the car.
Another thing with the tuning aspect of Teslas, I saw something the other day with the Plaid. It has, I think, right over 1,000 horsepower at the moment. Well, horsepower, but the battery capability is up to 1,500. So I don't know what's gonna I don't know if they lock tuning away from it, but there's probably going to be another model like a Plaid Plus or something like that unlocks all of that power.
I'd be curious to see if the OEMs start releasing performance tunes, because now, of course, I mean, you do wireless updates. So all of a sudden you're like, oh, my Model S Plaid, I want an extra 100 horsepower. And if there's a performance pack released by Tesla, it just stays in my garage, and overnight it gets a tune downloaded.
Stick a USB in it.
Yeah, and you're done.
That'd be an amazing way to just up your horsepower.
It's not far off. I mean, Slingshots have something like that.
Really?
Our SL model comes with like 176, but like the R models have 206, and it's pretty much just a software download for the SLs to get that additional 30-odd horse. So it's not far off.
Yeah, no, we're not far at all.
Yeah.
So, kind of continuing down the EV rabbit hole, we've joked around with some other folks about we're hitting that point where there's more EVs than internal combustion cars. And we're basically, an internal combustion car almost becomes someone's just weekend car, that type of thing. Or even to a point where, well, if you want the thrill of actually having an exhaust note, you're going out someplace and you're just renting an internal combustion car. What do you guys think about something like it's on the horizon, it's coming?
Oh yeah.
I completely understand having an EV as a daily driver. Makes sense. Not gas prices going up and everything like that. I mean, it makes sense. I'm like a purist. It makes sense, but I would get a Model S or a Model 3 for a daily driver and have my car as a weekend car. But
100%.
I'm okay with that.
I'm in there. But I mean, at the same time, I have classic cars. I've got two older Mercedes, one gray market import 85, 190E,
Nice.
2.3 Cosworth 16 valve motor.
Very cool.
I've got a Sportline 190, both manuals, dogleg transmissions. Love those cars. Got an old WRX, and then I've got my bikes that I ride every day. So the bike's more gas efficient, so I'm on my bike every day. But yeah, on the weekend, it's nice to bring one of those older cars out. You know what I mean?
Right.
Put it back on the road and have some fun with it. So given the option, I definitely would be, daily commute in my electric car and weekends with the classic.
do you have a WRX, DOS?
Well, actually, it's an RS25
okay.
now because I had to glue the first motor.
Yeah.
You know how that goes. All Ringwins with the Subarus.
Oh,
so.
yes, for sure.
Yep,
He
now
knows
it's got
about
like
that.
a
Big sweet guy here,
2.5
so,
motor.
yeah,
So
understand.
05, man. It's sitting in my driveway.
You
Very
should bring
nice.
it.
That's right.
Bring it Tuesday.
I always bring it international. Oh, Tuesday?
Tuesday.
Maybe.
Definitely.
So we'll throw this out there then. What right now do you feel is the best bang for buck enthusiast car? It that someone can buy?
Price range or no price range?
Either or. You can give me a cheapie, and then you can give me something that is, I mean, not talking exotic, but something above. Something something you can save for versus something you're gonna have payments on.
I think the best bang for your buck is a base model C8, because 60 grand basically from the factory.
Step right up.
That's a lot.
Right off the top.
No, that's what you save up for. That's what I'm going.
Yeah.
A base model C8 I think is the best bang for your buck.
What about cheap? Like say something cheap.
Go ahead and
Cheap.
pretend you're
High school.
fresh out of high school.
High school. I've got a job. That type of thing.
I mean,
Holeshot,
my car's a pretty
making
good
all right
one.
money.
I have a 2014 Camaro RS. I got it for 10 grand. It's
There you
not
go.
bad. 300 horsepower to the wheels. I mean, not bad for 10 grand.
There you go.
And a 6-speed manual. So
Nice. Trey, what you got, man?
I'm a big Subi guy. Like I love the all-wheel drive, like be able to take off from a light quick, stuff like that. So I got my car for 24 grand, which is more on the low end for some people not. But I love that thing. I rip the hell out of it. People say that you'll bust them, but I push mine to the limit all the time. I have a catless, shoots flames, all the fun stuff like that. The all-wheel drive is
I'm with
amazing.
him all day. Subarus,
And-
absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
I came out of Denver, you know what I mean? Huge Bronco fan, so all-wheel drive country out there, man. Snow, all that thing. I haven't met nothing that stopped that Subaru.
Oh yeah, you can see the videos of a WRX pulling a big semi truck out of the snow.
Absolutely.
It's amazing.
Nothing compares to that symmetrical all-wheel drive.
Oh, yeah.
I don't care what you got.
I mean, unless you're going to get an STI, which is like 40 grand.
sure.
You have the adjustable diff in it to where you can do like symmetrical, 50-50, you want to
Yeah.
call it. It's not really.
Yeah, or
but
you can push the balance.
You can push the balance like 30-70 to the rear and everything
Right.
like that. So to each their own. Like I love the WRX platform and all that stuff. Beware of the head gasket jokes, though. It's going to happen.
For sure. And the vaping jokes.
Oh, yeah, and the vaping jokes.
yep.
Oh, you have a vape on the table.
I do have a vape on the table.
Makes sense.
And I
He
did
owns a
endorse
WRX.
Just now, so.
That's okay. Stereotypes are there for a
Stereotype
reason.
exists for a reason, exactly, man.
Yeah, I increased the value of my WRX by not vaping in it by $5 grand when I go to sell it, so no worries.
There you
Oh,
go.
so it doesn't smell like Mystic Cosmic Cherry
I
or
think this is
something.
the
Yeah.
only guy I've met that doesn't vape that has a Subaru.
Unicorn.
I'll be
Yeah,
up there,
Right.
up there in value one day, $5 grand plus.
You should get your name on a wall or something.
I know, right?
Hall of
Like
Fame.
Subaru, go to Subaru, like
Yeah.
You're like a
not-
Subaru ambassador now.
Yeah.
right?
Hand out that swag.
So besides Subaru, you can't choose that one now. Trey already went
Fair.
there.
Well, I don't know, man. See, I've always been a German guy. So
Okay.
V-dubs, Audis. Not a Beamer guy. I'm a Mercedes guy.
Okay.
So the old Benz, the baby Benz, is my hands down favorite cars. I mean, I'm talking. This is a lightweight vehicle, 4-door, and I've got an inline 6,
Yep.
5-speed transmission, rear-wheel drive. It's a nasty car, and it was one of the first cars with independent multi-link suspension. So Mercedes, as always, ahead of their time.
Mm-hmm.
It's over-engineered. Don't get me wrong, but not that hard to work on. We've got 3 different engine modes. The other one, like I said, is a 4-cylinder 16-valve. Love that guy. Cosworth tune used to be what they raced out at the Nürburgring, back in old Evo days. So
Yep.
M3 killers. That's my line. So I love the Mercedes line. But I mean, as far as buying something to actually bring out here, I'd say the most common cars I'm seeing are Mustangs. Obviously, I'm not a huge fan of that American
Yeah.
stuff.
Sure.
They're around.
I love my old V-dubs. Your Mark II, Mark III Jettas, Golfs, GTIs.
Oh, very cool.
Maybe even R32, a VR6 swap V-dub. Those are my hands-down favorite things. They're Legos. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
6 bolts on the front. You can change the entire front clip out. It's nothing to work on those cars. So you want to talk about value for money getting in with the car show? V-dub all day.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a 69 convertible, so
Yeah.
I mean, I'm on the air-cooled side of Volkswagen,
Yep.
but yeah, so it was the first thing I learned how to take apart and the first thing I had to learn how to put back
Super
together.
easy. Yeah.
And it didn't take much.
No, one guy lift that whole sucker out.
Yeah.
Motor
Oh, for
out,
sure.
back in. Yeah.
For sure. So let's talk about some of the new cars coming out. So right now, new cars and buying new cars is crazy. It seems like everything's at MSRP
Oh, God.
plus some.
If you could
Yep.
find it, yeah, you're waiting
Yeah,
6
like-
months
Sure.
plus.
I've got a friend, he's a wholesaler, like the new Benz G63 AMGs. Like
Yep.
there's one that's $125,000 over sticker. Over sticker.
Yep.
So yeah, it's kind of nuts. Now on the motorcycle side, has some of these supply shortages affected you guys in regards to your
Absolutely.
inventory?
Absolutely. Slingshots. Typically, I used to carry about 16 slingshots at all times.
Yep.
I haven't had a slingshot on my floor since probably late last year. Everything's gone into the pre-order side of things. So
Yep.
you could walk in my dealership. I would have about 350 different off-road, on-road slingshots motorcycles. I think my rolling inventory right now is not getting higher than 30.
Wow.
at all. So we're getting shipments in weekly, but they're all pre-orders. So now it's no longer the impulse buy like it used to be, coming on a Saturday. Oh, that looks good. I want it.
Yeah.
Not anymore. Now it's, hey, we got to do some research. I'll show you on a computer. We can talk
Right.
about it for a couple bits. Send you out somewhere to go maybe rent one for a little while, make sure
Yep.
you like it. But it's all pre-order and wait, especially in my industry right now. So it's been difficult.
What's the wait time now on an order?
Ooh, man, on slingshots, depending on what you want. If you want one of the base or the mid models, I'm looking at probably March, April of next year. I can't even order them until January. So the good news is you'll get a 22 model, not a 21.
Yep.
I can get some R models in 21. I'm still looking at, if I ordered them today, we're probably maybe Christmas, New Year delivery.
That's crazy.
That's nuts.
It's out there.
Yeah, yeah. Like we're also in the Jeep world, so we've got a 2021 Gladiator, but we've had Jeeps forever and a day, and we went by we're down in St. Augustine, and we drove by our Jeep dealership the other day. There's not a single Wrangler or Gladiator on the lot.
Yep.
That was the
New
problem.
or used.
Yeah.
The problem, we looked for the package on ours for a Rubicon on the Gladiator.
Yep.
We have a 21 Gladiator, and we looked for a Rubicon, and we could not find one. It was insane. So we had to go with the Mojave edition, and I mean, there's no deserts in Florida, but we'll take
looks
it.
great.
It looks great.
It looks
amazing.
great.
You can always go run in Ocala.
Oh yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
right?
I'm very excited to go take it down there. Actually, it's gonna be great. We looked up on some 37-inch tires. It
Nice.
looks sweet.
Yeah. We've got an overland rack on ours now. We're looking at here probably this fall. We're gonna do rims and tires and lift and all that good
Nice.
stuff.
That's what we just added on ours. We added a 2-inch. It came with a 2-inch lift from factory.
Yep.
On their Mojave editions, we added another 2-inch. So that's on a 4-inch lift. So we put on 17-inch wheels, I believe, and then 37-inch tires, and it changes the whole look of it.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, without a doubt. We came from we both had 4-doors, and when everything happened and I was working from home, over 6 months I put like 2 tanks of gas in my Jeep. And I'm like, I'm paying for a paperweight in my driveway. And we had talked about getting a Gladiator for a while. So I was like, screw it. I was like, let's trade them both in. We'll get the Gladiator. And, because originally we were going to wait a couple years, but we timed it out perfect. So at the time, this is just before things had gotten really crazy. So there were there were no supply chain issues
Had
just
your
yet.
pick of stuff on the lot.
Oh, well, we were getting ready to order one.
Okay.
And he's like, we've got one coming in off the truck that's the same spec but has more options than you had picked in your order. But what if we give you the same truck for the same price?
Yeah.
And
No-brainer.
and it'll be in a week instead of 6 to 8 weeks.
Way
and I'm
better.
like, so give me the truck.
Yeah. Handshake.
Yeah. So but they were also paying more for it was weird. It's like the new cars themselves, we got a good discount on, but the trade-in we also got more for. It was kind of like this weird thing that we had timed somehow
Absolutely.
perfectly. So it was a
Right.
great deal. But yeah, it's nothing I'd be able to do today.
I'm not gonna lie, I was iffy about the Gladiator at first, but whenever I saw all of the upgrading abilities, and after I got used to it, it's a nice truck.
Oh, they're
They're very nice.
Well, and that's actually, so we've had ours now for a while, probably, I don't know, 8 months. Oh, it is. Oh, okay. So anyway, but either way, we've had it for a while, and when the first couple weeks we had it, we're driving, and I'm like, man, I forgot how good a stock Jeep drove.
Oh yeah.
Because both of our hers was completely built up. That's the one we beat on. Mine was kind of like what we drive around in, go in trips in. So we going from both of those modded Jeeps into something that was stock. I'm like, man, this is a damn Cadillac.
Right. Talking about the new vehicles, newer Jeeps. Have you seen the 392 Jeep?
I was so mad that came out a month after we bought ours.
I think it's nuts.
Yeah.
It's insane.
And because I was like, if they ever come out with a 392, I'm getting it. And then we bought the Gladiator, and then a
then
month
they came out
later,
with it.
and I'm like, shit.
Right.
Called my bluff.
Maybe that's why we got the discount.
Probably.
Yeah. He knew. It's
It's all coming back to you now.
It all makes sense.
It all makes
This guy's
sense.
buyer's remorse.
But now also they got the Wrangler E.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Do they really? I
yeah,
never
so
even
it's
knew
it's
about
an
that.
electric hybrid now.
What?
Yeah, a hybrid Wrangler.
That's crazy.
I don't know how I feel about it.
don't know how I
The
feel about
electric,
it
the torque delivery,
Torque
in a
monster.
crawl mode, is going to be ridiculous.
Yeah.
So we've got friends that they do competitive off-roading, and both on the crawl scene, but also on the racing scene. And on the crawl side of things, they ended up putting out some rules in this particular series where some guys were going to start building electric buggies.
Right.
Well, that's you can just dial in the power to every single corner. And so they're realizing those buggies compared to just a traditional buggy, even with the ones that have hydraulic steering and all this, there was such an advantage to the electric buggies that they were like, hey, you can't use these in the series, because I mean you can just. There's no drive shafts. You can just have a motor in each hub. So like you could have a wheel that would turn completely perpendicular to the rest of the car and just crawl.
It's like the Hummer, right? You know how it has the crab walk type thing?
Yeah. By the way, those things, have you seen the new Hummer?
Yes, at Concours.
Yeah, at the Concours. Yeah.
It was crazy.
They're huge.
They're massive.
But what, 1,001 horsepower, right?
That's nuts.
Yes. I have not seen this.
My favorite feature is definitely the crab walk, though. It's so cool seeing all the wheels turn and it
Yeah,
just
and
go.
then the whole thing would just drive down like it's got a bad alignment.
Yeah, you ever seen the video at the Daytona Truck Month where the
Yes,
guy's
I
on the
saw
road
it.
and he
He's
turns the
going-
wheels and all the girls are like, what is happening? Because the whole car is like looks like it's sliding across the
That's
road.
so
Yeah.
cool.
Well, it looks like we're finally getting some sun.
It
I
feels
know.
good.
It's
I'm over
nice.
here squinting now, so.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
That's all
Needed to
good.
stay this way for the day.
Yeah. Well, it's so weird. Like Josh and I were talking when I first got here. Originally, there was supposed to be like 60, 70%
There was a
chance of
70%
rain. We thought it
chance
was
of
gonna be
rain
a
last night.
washout.
I wake up, it says 19%. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
The rain looked like it just went right around Jacksonville and stayed away from us, so that's good.
So, bang for buck cars,
Right there.
right there.
right there.
Maserati
Yeah.
Gran Turismo.
You got the Ferrari engine, man.
Yeah, it's. I think they
Still
aged
electric cars?
very, very well.
They did.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's well, and then you can get the MC Stradale version.
Yeah.
A little bit better suspension, upgraded exhaust, a few other little tweaks here and there, and just remarkably affordable. Oh, that's a good spec too.
It is a very good spec.
Yes.
White, red
White.
interior.
Black wheels,
Yep, black wheels.
red calipers. It's very nice.
Yeah, no, that's
I would definitely get a Gran Turismo.
for sure. So, what about future classics?
Future
Future.
class.
Yeah, so you look at cars that are maybe 5 to 10 years old tops
Mm-hmm.
that are going to have a ton of collectability over the next few decades.
C6 Corvette is my C5, C6. I think if you keep them
Like
pristine,
any of them, or like
Any of
Grand
them.
Sport,
I mean,
Z06.
a ZR1 C6 is gonna skyrocket in 20.
Well, those
years.
are already going.
They're already
Yeah.
high up, but I think they're gonna keep going because if you
For
keep
sure.
them low miles, I mean, it's a LS7, right? Supercharged LS7.
I think so. Yeah.
That engine is already good enough, and if you keep it low
Mm-hmm.
with such a nice body style, I think it's gonna be up there.
Yeah. Well,
I like to see some things with like a big aftermarket aspect go stay like that, like good classic from now.
right.
I know like I say WRX has a good aftermarket.
Mhm.
Like you can go on any website and find something for a WRX to buy, but like cars with that like aspect of being able to buy and modify it, I like to see those parts and stuff like that stay in like a classic range.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well,
see you end
I
up-
think we're starting to see that now in like Bring a Trailer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, where you're finding extremely low mile, well kept, mostly stock, with maybe a couple of tasteful mods, things like that. Those cars are just already banging for premiums.
Yeah.
For sure.
How about you?
I don't know. I'm a big fan of the new Supras.
Oh yes. Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Big fan of the new
Me
Supra.
too.
I'm
So-
one of those I like it, but I wish they would have done just a little bit.
For sure. Like, I'm, obviously the 93, 94s, those were your primos.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
2J
yeah.
motors, the whole nine. But, this thing's just been staring at me. It's
The entire time?
wonderful.
I
Yeah.
think they're a very good looking car, and,
They
and
are.
again, you talk about
They're a lot of
performance.
fun to drive.
Yeah, performance
My
bang for your
God,
buck.
so much fun to drive.
Like
Oh, yeah.
you put a couple grand into it, and that thing's
oh, yeah.
This one right behind us.
Yeah, this one right behind
Like,
us has a
let's
couple
go.
grand into it, and
It's-
it's on what's his?
It's
E-
it's catless and E85, and it rips. It's fast. My dad has a Hellcat. This is faster than the Hellcat.
Yeah.
It's so light
nasty.
and it
Mm-hmm.
takes off.
I'm pretty sure a stock one on upgraded wheel setup does 10s in the quarter,
Oh yeah.
which
They're
is
so nasty.
crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I was one of the prior to it coming out, and everyone knew the new Supra was going to come, and there was a couple of those renderings that had come out, and everyone was oohing on, and I thought that was
Yes.
pretty damn good
Widen it
looking.
out, yeah.
Yeah, it basically looked like a Toyota version of the LC500.
Oh, there's one of those here.
Yeah, oh yeah, and I love the LC500. Like
Yeah.
for me, like for a GT car, just like a cruiser
It's
daily
amazing.
driver.
It is amazing.
Yeah, like if I wanted to deal something with a little bit older, I'd probably do a Gran Turismo. But
Yeah.
like honestly, like newer cars for something like that, The LC500.
And something cool about the LC500 is I've ridden one before. It's almost like an electric car if you're just cruising.
Yep.
If you step on it, it sounds insane. It's like
They do.
It's like a sleeper kind of.
Yeah.
Except it doesn't have the looks of a sleeper.
Right. And that's exactly. And I was hoping they were going to take the LC500 platform, and that's what the new Super was going to be based in.
Yeah.
Like, and not necessarily. They didn't necessarily have to keep the V8.
There you go.
There goes your Supra.
The active valve exhaust. He's got it open right now.
Yeah.
I think he's going to come back. I think he's just taking him for a ride.
You got to show it off. You got to put that guy in the seat real quick.
The exhaust on these, with the active exhaust,
Yep.
the pops that you get from the stock
the
exhaust,
crazy.
Oh, it's phenomenal.
It's amazing.
The first day he got that car, he took me for a ride in it. It did not feel like a stock car.
Oh, no.
No.
It hugs so well.
Yep.
And everyone's like, oh, it's a BMW and blah, blah. I'm like, yes, there is some BMW in it, but people don't realize the amount of work that Toyota put into them as well.
Yep.
I think what the entire suspension geometry and setup is completely Toyota.
It is.
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing BMW.
It is.
It's got a great.
It's a crazy good car. People don't give it enough attention and give it what it's worth.
Well, I think the people who know do.
Yeah.
You get the folks who probably would never buy one to begin with. I mean, that's where a lot of times, the Super sucks this, the Super sucks that. And I'm like, you'd never own one in the first place.
How about
So-
you go drive one and see what you say?
drive one.
Yeah,
Hands down.
If you drove one and didn't have the badges on it, you didn't know what it was.
Exactly.
I guarantee you your mind would change.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with the same way. That and the Gladiator. I hated on the Gladiator when it first came out. I saw it. I was like, what is this junk? I call it a junk because it's a Jeep truck put together,
Yeah.
and I hated on it. But I lifted it and drove it. It's amazing. Same way with his Supra. I didn't know how I felt about it. Got in a ride, and I was like, all right, this is awesome.
Sold.
Yeah, sold.
I was the same way.
So, other things that happen around here besides shows, we look at events. We've talked about where we think they've come from, where they're going, things like that. What do you think the scene in Northeast Florida right now needs?
I think it needs more pop-up events style. We have a group here called Odd Boys that does an event every so often, and they get a great turnout. They post it, and they have good cars. They're not terribly modified it out to where they're horrible, horrendous looking.
Right.
And they do all the carbon bags, stuff like that. So a lot of people go to those. I love the pop-up events. It's not an overwhelming crowd where they have the DJ there playing insanely loud music. You can go just hang out with your friends, and it's a good time to go do stuff like that.
Right.
I think we need more night shows. I mean, pop-up events, yes, night shows.
Yeah.
But
LED
there's
contests, music.
an annual or a monthly night show would be awesome. It would be so cool. I would go to every single one of them.
Yeah, Ocala actually has Cars and Coffee After Dark.
Oh, that'd
Really?
be awesome.
That's
Yeah.
very cool.
And it's starting to, and it's so weird. Ocala's a sneaky car scene.
yeah.
Because you think retirees and horses. But all the retirees and horses have a
lot of money.
And so, yeah,
in
so
college.
that scene down there is really starting to grow. But it was cool when they started the Cars and Coffee After Dark, and
Yeah.
it's a monthly event. And yeah, it's great. It takes off.
I would love that.
Well,
I'm
and,
gonna have to go
and
find
here,
one of
Like
those.
we do
and
at the
he-
bike nights with the cars, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. So the bike scene, which I am not familiar with
We're
whatsoever.
all about night times.
Yeah, I'll say the folks that I
All
do
about
know,
nighttime.
it sounds like they're always doing things
Yeah.
in the evening, at night,
Yep.
stuff
Well,
like that.
typically, we go for rides during the daytimes, you know what I mean?
Right.
Saturday, Sundays, now till, after lunch. It's all about riding, you know what I mean? Putting
Yep.
some miles on the bike, having some fun. End of the day, showing up with a bunch of other guys, having a couple drinks, sharing some times, and hanging out for a few hours. So most all our bike gatherings always 6, 7 p.m. and later.
Yep. Well, I mean, and it's Florida. I mean, we
Yes.
have 9 months of summer essentially.
It's great.
Yeah, and we're not exactly riding around with AC.
I mean, kind of 12 months
but-
of summer, depending on the year.
Depending on the year, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, someone would brought up. So this is the last weekend of summer. So fall starts midweek, and I'm like,
I need it.
It's
I mean, I would love.
now.
I think we've had a couple days recently where the humidity was down some, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
well, this is nice. I'm not
Today's
completely
not terrible
dying.
either.
It's
Yeah.
not
Hey,
horrible
I'm still
today.
full
but-
sweating. We'll see that later. But still warm.
We'll make that the thumbnail for the video.
Do it.
But yeah, so night shows definitely sounds like something that
I
could.
like the night show.
I would
for
love
sure.
it.
We need track days, man.
Track
We
days?
need a
I mean,
dang
the
track
firm
day.
The
is
firm is
close.
getting there.
It's close, yeah.
It's
I'm
close,
saying
but we
need
don't
to
have any.
get
There's,
that
to be
thing
honest,
going.
there's nothing in Jacksonville.
That's what I'm saying. We have the most landmass
Yeah.
in the continental U.S.
yes.
And let's play.
I will say this: I know of some things, and there are some things on the horizon right now
Yep.
Awesome.
good.
that are
That's right.
they've already run through city council and Land is
that guy
done.
playing up by the airport.
There's actually another one on top of that.
Sweet.
I mean, we
So-
had
Even
the
better.
we had the drag strip in Green Cove, but too many people complained.
Yeah.
Well, and then they got offered a ton of money by the port
Yeah.
to park cars.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean,
Storage.
it's called I don't have to work and you're going to pay me more than I was making.
Yeah.
No problem.
Done.
Sold.
There you go.
I mean, I can't fault them for that. The
For
enthusiast
sure.
in me was like, "Oh, that sucks."
Yeah, but then it's like
But
the
it's
common
like,
sense part
yeah,
is like,
on the
makes sense.
business side, I'm like, yeah, I can't fault you for that.
You gotta have a vice for these guys, man. Somewhere to put it down.
I will,
Well, yeah, exactly.
I will say the firm. I give like a little shout out to them. They're doing pretty well. They've got the Subaru like rally, like their like
Oh, the
World
Rallycross,
events. They're
yeah.
coming to the firm there in
Oh,
December, I
cool.
believe. And I've already got my tickets to go. It's going to be amazing. The
Yep.
firm, we go out there and we've tracked a few cars out there, and it's always a great time to go out there and be able to track
The
because
firm
they
is
have
awesome.
they have a rally course and a street course like
Yep.
on the pavement, and it's
Yep.
awesome. And then the Gainesville drag strip is also not too far. I'm
Yep.
like right between both of those, so
Yeah.
it's a good mix of what you can get.
Yeah, I mean, we are close to some things.
We
But,
are close,
but
but-
it's hard to have like you're hanging out with some friends and then like, oh hey, let's go to the drags tonight.
Exactly.
Or
It's not
let's-
local enough to
So you
like.
gotta step your game up, man. I
make
want,
it a
I want a
daily
mobile dyno out there so we can start doing dyno drags all day
A
long.
mobile dyno.
Yeah,
Find a-
man.
find a company to
drag
sponsor that.
Yeah, you drag two of them out here. You put two cars up there.
You guys want to sponsor
something
something else, or is this out of my own funds?
That's your time.
Oh,
I'm just
This is your time.
18-year-old kid
I'm
paying
probably
for a
going to
mobile
bring some
dyno.
old bike dynos since that's
Do
what
you
I
have?
do.
Do we have dynos?
We have one. I just need a second one so we can start drag racing.
That'd be
But
cool.
Ah.
That's actually
dyno
pretty cool.
racing is the way to go, man. But I only need to spin one
Yeah.
one wheel.
So I mean,
So
you
my
could,
dynos are much smaller.
so maybe you could bring out a car dyno and you could
what-
race 4
That's
bikes.
true. I mean, if the dyno can register 2 wheels individually,
There you go.
So we talked about shows. Let's talk about other like motorsports events. So on the motorcycle side, what's some fun for you? Like what's close by this is the event I go to.
Close, nothing. We're pretty much out down here. Atlanta, I think, is one of our closest tracks. Mission Foods up there. But mainly, I'm all about watching. The FTR races. This big New Year's going to be King of Baggers. I think they're doing like a 3 to 5 race
Yep.
circuit this year. It's going to be phenomenal. And I mean, we're talking like big bikes,
Yep.
big baggers, touring bikes, doing same split times as R6s at Laguna Seca. So
Right.
phenomenal racing on such a big bike. I'm looking forward to that this year.
They don't have anything like that in Daytona?
Not really. I mean,
No.
we do our FTR races down there. We also do I think the closest event that we participate and have fun with is out in Callahan Speedway.
Okay.
North Jacksonville. They've got a nice dirt track out there. We're out there every wintertime. We host the Winterfest
Okay.
out at Callahan Speedway. So a lot of dirt track racing. Jared Mees will show up. All the guys out there. We sponsor Corey Texter. So they'll bring their FTR 750s out there and just go to town. And that's a lot of fun. But being a bagger guy, I want to see those
I can
baggers
honestly
hit
say
that corner.
I've never seen like a heavy bike race.
Phenomenal.
I need.
Absolutely. It's on the trailer TV. There's a
I'll have to
TV
get-
on my trailer, and it is playing those races
I'll
right
I'll
now.
have to check that out some because that sound like I think like big bikes hauling ass around someplace and everyone's
Dragon knee, man.
yeah like all I think of is just like Sons of Anarchy and guys just
Right.
trashing around town.
Wait, he's got full
not like on the track.
Yeah, these guys go crazy. Oh, Mustang, right?
So how about the motorsports side? Is there a motorsports event, or show /
Caffeine and
race?
octane. It has to be caffeine and octane. That is the main thing around here. that I would
24-hour
love to do.
Sebring, man. Come on, it's only a couple hours away.
And
Well, I mean, you got the Rolex 24,
I was about to say Rolex
HSR,
24,
yeah, the classic 24.
Rolex 24 is probably the best racing event around here that I enjoy.
Yep.
And there's F1 coming to Miami. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's a
Very excited
5-hour
for that.
drive, but it's F1.
Oh yeah, I mean
Oh,
it's,
yeah.
it's still closer than
Yeah.
Bahrain. or-
Exactly.
definitely. I'm excited for the rally racing for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope that's a good turnout for them.
You said that's in December, right?
Yeah, December.
December at the firm.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Has anyone here been to the HSR Classic 24 in
I have
Daytona?
not been to HSR.
Amazing event. It's very, very similar to Rolex 24 because again, it's
Yeah.
a 24-hour race, but it's deceptive in the way they classify it as they are running 24 hours, but they're running in 1 hour, 1 or 2 hour stints.
Yeah.
with groups.
Okay.
Well, it's because most of the cars are 60s and 70s and 80s.
Yeah, they won't be able to hold up.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
long.
they're not running for 24 hours.
For
I
sure.
mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, but they also have modern stuff. Also to the Celebration Exotic Track Days for the Celebration Exotic Car Festival. The track days at Daytona, amazing. The cars that showed up, they had this last year, Pagani Zonda Revolution show out. Yeah, that car screamed. So in a couple years before that, there was a Ferrari 250 GTO that the guy actually tracked.
That's crazy.
So those are definitely, and what's nice is the crowds are smaller.
Yeah.
You have more so much like Rolex, you can go in the garages and everything else. But for like the HSR, a lot of the drivers, they're former like F1 drivers, Indy champions. The drummer from AC/DC was out.
That's
That's awesome.
So like it's and because the crowds aren't that big, like you can interact with these folks and you can really talk to them about their time driving, the cars. Like there were a couple 280 SL Gullwing race cars that got brought in from Germany.
It's phenomenal.
And like to see these two cars run around the track was just like,
it's
like
a time machine.
I'll never see, because these two
It's
cars were
breathtaking.
literally
Yeah.
flown here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So so put those on there. And then what's nice is the celebrations early year, so it's kind of still a little cooler. HSR is actually coming up this fall.
Yeah.
And so it's nice again. It's typically cooler. HSR a couple years ago was cold. It was really cold. It was windy and it was cold.
When is Rolex again? I can't remember the exact
February.
date. February.
Yeah. So, and it should be interesting this year too. So Rolex this past couple years to me was disappointing, simply because the field was super, super small.
Okay.
Now, though, there's been a new partnership with, I believe, IMSA, and I forget the other one. Anyway, so there's a new part. So basically, there's a merging of some of these series. So they're going to go from essentially I think the last Rolex 24 only had like 22 or 21 cars in the field. Like
That's
It
crazy.
was nothing. Either next year or the following year, they're expecting anywhere between 50 and 60 in the field. So things are finally going the right direction again at Rolex, which is great because again, it's a perennial event. If you haven't been to, I definitely suggest going to.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, guys, I think other than that, anything else big? Anything on the scene?
Kind of covered everything.
Yeah, anything big kind of out in the scene happening that you're like, I need to say something about this?
Not that I know of.
Oh man, just gotta keep showing up to this Fleming Island Cars and Coffee. we got lots of parking.
There we go.
Awesome.
like
Bigger and bigger.
A lot of good
Cool.
people here.
Well, I want to thank you guys for taking the time to be on the show today.
Absolutely.
Everybody out
Appreciate
there.
you coming.
Yeah, if you're
Sure.
listening, watching on YouTube, don't forget like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. And we'll catch you guys next time. Thanks.
See you.